round are good teams.
No, that's just the best matchup.
No, that's the best matchup out of all.
Is it the first one?
Yes, actually.
It's the first one. So they're playing each other in the first round, which will be like the Super Bowl, which is the last game of the National Football League season. But you're saying the first first games in the round of 16, because they've got these two teams, will be like the Super Bowl,
which is the penultimate. Every one of these games is like
because it's a blind draw. They ended up playing each other in the first part of this. So you're having the two best teams. I think Paul thinks.
No, I don't.
I do. I think they're the two best teams in the entire bracket.
I think, I think City and Bayern, I think, are the top two.
City's, top two technically, but play-wise, I think that's the best line. Yeah. Players and everything. Unfortunately, yes, they are playing in the first round, and one of them will be eliminated and will not play in the finals of that tournament.
All right, we got to move on because I got to get to the airport tonight.
Okay, yeah.
And you two are torturing
me. The ice princess arrives.
They're torturing me with all this stuff. Anyway, first plugs. I got to do the plugs now, so you guys can. Soccerheads New England is sponsored by financial advisor Rick Spencer, number 978-857-7573. Rick speaks at free seminars for soccer clubs, leagues, and the public. He'll help get your kid into college, athlete or not. He'll also help with other needs. He's my financial advisor, and he's great. So don't spend your retirement in Tent City. Go to Rick. To have Rick come speak to your club, team, league, or group, or to check out one of his free seminars in your area, call him at 978-857-7573. Also, if your organization needs to raise money and you want to have a great time doing it, you should hire the Soccerheads Experience. It involves 3 comics, Paul, myself, and Jim. Much funnier than we've been so far in this podcast. But we'll do something that's a little bit more than a comedy show. It's a great comedy show with a lot of soccer-themed humor and all kinds of extra things. Help you make a lot of money and have a great experience for your team or league or whatever. Email Jim Ruberti at soccerheadsnewengland@gmail.com for that. And finally, we can get to the topics. Just a couple more current events things to get to. The MLS finals were held. I saw those games. They were good. And I've decided this. I like the PKs.
You do?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you see teams at the very end of that where they play the extra period and they're just cooked. They're just cooked. So you know that if you're going to get a goal at the end, it'll be a sloppy goal because somebody has just run out of energy. So you can say, well, it's a test of fitness, or you could also say that's enough fitness. We've run around enough. Let's go to this, and you go to PKs.
And you know what's interesting, Dave, is we talk about extra time a lot.
Yeah.
I hate the arbitrary extra time. I don't know. In the beginning of that game,
I've changed my mind. I love extra time.
Everybody was falling. It was to be honest with you, in the first half of that game, there was a lot of falling, or as you like to say, like he was murdered on the field, and you're waiting for the ambulance to come out. And I was getting a little frustrated watching the game because it was apparent that was going a little overboard. But it also created extra time. Now, when New York took the lead, they were doing that a lot. And guess what happened in extra time, Dave?
Right.
Well, let's go to goal. So sometimes doing all that falling and getting that extra time can come back and bite you, and it certainly did. They were exhausted at the end, and that's why Paul was in the box the whole last couple minutes, and that's how it got to PKs.
Right. I think I need to do another study.
Why not? Why is that?
Okay, so if you're a goalie, right?
Yeah.
And you dive to the right or the left, we have statistics on your save percentage. But so when the Revs lost to NYC, 3 balls went down the middle.
Straight down the middle.
So I don't understand why they don't 1 out of the 5 stay in the middle. So
you
should do a study on, like, similar to whether you should go for 2 in the NFL based on the numbers. What percentage of the time should you stay in the middle based on the number of balls that are going down the middle?
I'll tell you why. As a goalie, former goalie, it's almost aesthetics. If you're not diving, you ain't saving.
You look like an ass.
You look like an ass if you're standing there and the ball goes in and everybody's going like, well, why didn't you just pick a side? But I guess if you do a study, you could determine, okay, 3 of them have hit it right and left. Maybe this guy's going to hit it down the middle. You're right. What time? You could actually do the study. Which number of the 5 kicks it down the middle too?
Right.
You could really determine that. Well, but I like this study, though. I was looking at it. I was doing the same thing. Paul was righties. How often do righties pull their penalty kick? I would say it's going to be 80% of the time.
When they're kids,
are going to do 100%.
And then as they grow up, they learn to go that way. But you're right, they still pull a lot.
It's either push or pull, righties and lefties. There's a huge study that could be. I'm sure somebody's
Oh, I can't imagine that. Well, wait. They must study this. They must have advanced scouts.
They have some studies. I haven't seen one on.
No, what I mean, they must have advanced scouts that watch the players that say, in a PK situation, this guy's going to go to the right, this guy's going to go to the left. As a tell, when they do the little stutter step, and then how many times when they did the stutter step, it seemed like they almost always push it.
They almost always score.
And they almost always score.
They do almost score.
They're watching the goalie. Where's he going to move? That's what the stutter steps are.
Yeah.
I'm looking at his feet, determining you don't have that much time. Of course, this is coming from an expert. As you've heard the old,
why haven't we muted him?
If you've heard the old podcast, I was 0 for 15 on penalty kicks, man.
Listen, I'm sure you would have stopped the 60.
And those weren't shootout penalty kicks; those were just 15.
But if let's say I pull it, and you guess right, I still could score
100%.
But if I go down the middle and you don't move, you're going to save it almost every time.
Almost every time.
If you look at the three that maybe it was two that Turner missed, if he didn't move, they were right at his hands,
right where he was.
But I think the other thing is, I mean, there were when I played, there were basically three things you can do. You can stay, you can left, you jump to, you dive to the right, you dive to the left, you stay. In high school, you can get away with that just staying because you will get people who kick it right at you. Because they don't want to miss.
You're talking the top scorers here.
But at a good league, like I said, I'm sure that there's a statistic that says that MLS player Paul Nardizzi in his career has in PKs has pulled the ball 3 times, or kicked to the left 3 times out of 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
Actually, let's say 4 out of 5. So therefore, when you kick, I'm thinking you're going to kick to the right. So if you kick down the middle or to the right, you're gonna screw me up. I'm sure the same way you as a kicker have been told, this goalie goes left. It's just tendencies.
Yeah, Paul,
but I think you're right about it. I think it's aesthetics. I mean, I think Jim is right. If you stay to the right, it almost seemed like the New York goalie. I mean, he was so big. That keeper, and he was so dominant. He seemed a couple times to be stepping right directly into the kick, even before he left his feet. I don't know if it's good scouting.
Guys, when you're diving, instead of standing still, you've got to try to get to that post. Okay? So when you're thinking in your mind, I've got to get as far over as possible to cover that post. So you're already committed to not standing still. You know you're going to use all your energy. And like you said, that goalie, see how far he got over? His hand was almost covering the post.
Yeah.
That's how long he was. And he did. He dove out of the goal, not straight across. He drove out. And there were a couple of bad shots too.
Yeah,
they weren't close to the post. But yeah, you got to.
He was intimidating.
In your mind, you're committing, Paul. The last thing you're doing is say, "I'm going to just stand here and hopefully he shoots it at me."
And Pirlo probably took 30% of his PKs right down the middle.
Right down the middle.
Panenka. So to me, against him, you got to stay in the middle sometimes.
Like you said,
1 out of 3 chance.
That's got to be a research. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Somebody's going to look at.
So the
observations, Dave. I'm impressed.
I see. Sometimes I pay attention. Not this time, though. Not with this topic. NCAA Finals. NCAA Finals. I heard. Well, you tell me. How did it happen? What happened?
Well, all I know is it was Clemson, number 8 team, 8 seed Clemson, and it was Washington. And Washington was number 2 and was clear favorite. Clemson's goalie was fantastic in the quarters. He did his penalty kicks, and he was fantastic. And sure enough, we go back to, Dave, you had mentioned in the past podcast about goalies needing foot skills to be effective. And a ball was sent in from probably about 35, 40 yards out. The goalie keeper came out to get it. It was on a bounce, and he went to kick it, and he missed. And it went by him into the box, and the Clemson guy came in and knocked it in. And from then on, it was just the final was 2-0, but that goal really shook Washington up. The Clemson goalie did have to make a couple of saves near the end that were pretty impressive, but it was just to watch as a goalie. And like I told Paul earlier before the podcast, you guys miss open nets all the time. You miss headers wide open. Nobody cares. Goalie makes one stupid play like that, right, and it's for the rest of his life.
Did you ever run out and actually kick the ball, or did you miss it every time?
No, here's what happened to me. I was playing at Westfield State in a game, and they had AstroTurf, and I had never played on AstroTurf before.
Which is quick, quicker than grass. A lot quicker.
That's just like playing baseball, and it's got that second bounce. But that wasn't the case. The case was the ball was sent in. I came off my line to get it. It bounced in front of me and went right over my head and into the net. And I will remember that, yes, Paul, for the rest of my life. And so will most of my teammates will remember that.
I'm going to call your school and ask for some footage of all of this stuff.
It was just...
So this leads to my next nonsensical theory. I have many theories. Here it is. So I'm looking at the Division III NCAA finals over the last 15 years versus 2 versus 1. And what one has that the other ones don't is the losing team never scores. 13 out of the last 15 years, they have not scored. So I feel like the first team's scoring, and then they're so good defensively, they just pack it in and we end up 1-0, or it goes 0-0 to PKs. Something has to
As a fellow Italian,
yeah.
You know that's how Italy has played their World Cup and their games for centuries. Yeah. Get the first goal and then put everybody in the box. That's how it's been for a long time. And I think that's what they do. Yeah, I think they said they're used to sitting on the lead, kicking the balls out of bounds, and just delaying the game until it ends. Yeah. The lower divisions is my guess. Not as good scores.
Right. But a bunch of them was 0-0 to PKs. A bunch of them were 1-0.
Yeah.
It's boring.
No ones. Yeah.
It's boring. I felt like once Clemson went up, I knew the game was over based on the numbers. So you ready for the theory?
Go ahead.
You like shootouts. You're not a soccer fan.
Right.
So why don't we just please everybody and have every game have a shootout?
At the beginning of the game.
At the beginning of the game.
Then we decide who won, and then they just play for fun?
No, then they play knowing the result of the shootout is already in, so you can't play for a shootout because you lost the shootout. So now you're going to come out and play, and if you score, the other team has to score because it's 1-0, they lose, and they want a tie to get to the shootout, which they already won before the game.
I think that's an incredibly dumb idea, and I love it. I love it.
I told my kids, and they walked out of the room, but that tells me it's a good idea.
That is not bad, Paul. I'm impressed.
Because we all get to see a shootout, right?
You get to see the shootout, unless you're late, like Dave usually is in this.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't make it.
Shootouts in Bentley. You and I will be there? Yeah. Just want to tell the listeners, Jim lives an hour and a half away. He left at 12. I live about an hour away. I left at 12:30. Dave lives 4 minutes away, and he left at, 2:10?
I get it around 2:15, 2:10. Yeah, so what? It's quality, not quantity.
You bring the quality.
I do bring the quality.
Paul, that's not a bad idea. I actually like that. Right. 14 episodes, Paul came up with a good idea. Come on, that's pretty good.
I like kicking the ball back to the goalie. That's such a better idea than anything else Paul has ever said. And how long have I known you? 25 26 years? Yeah. So I think...
Dale, what do you think? Shootout before the game?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You're not a fan. You could watch that and go...
I like soccer. I respect the sport, unlike Dave. I respect the sport.
Just so everybody knows, Dale's an ex-police officer, so when Paul says shootout, he's thinking of an entirely different thing. So, of course, he's up for it.
He wants to be in it.
He wants to shoot somebody.
Yeah, the suburban cops against the inner city kids. We'll lose.
He's like, only 5 shots? What the hell?
This is amazing. This is amazing. First of all, we're having an actual discussion of Paul's stupid idea. And he turns around and he gives Dale a nudge, wakes him up and says, shootout, you think that's a good idea? And Dale says, yes. Then Jim comes up with a whole new idea for what kind of a shootout it is. And Dale's like, yeah, that sounds perfect.
And Dave's just thinking about his girl flying in from Iceland. So we've come full circle here.
It only cost me $20,000 for that little snow bunny. Because you know what I heard? I looked at her. She's from Iceland. She's from Iceland. I'm like, she must be Swedish.
I just want to make something. I want to mention something. Okay.
Yep.
Ronnie, I don't know if I pronounce his name, Diella, the coach of NYC. So we thought we had the best coach. We do have a very good coach. I looked at this guy's record. This guy's won everywhere. He won in Norway. He won the Cup in Norway and the league. He went to Celtic, which is in the Scottish Premier, won 2 titles, and then came to NYC, and he's won here. He said after the game, I'm not sure this means we're the best team, because is the best team the team that wins the Cup or the team that wins the Supporters' Shield? Because, in Europe, if you win the division, it's over. They don't have playoffs. So
no, because they've only got 20 more tournaments you can be in.
Yes, but in his head, he's looking at this 2 champions. So to the Revs' credit, that's what people look at. They think you're a champ. You won. You were the best team.
Everywhere except the United States.
Yeah. But we are not. We don't have the only good coach. That guy can coach. He won 3 games in a row.
I did not know that. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Wow. Did not know that.
Oh, he was good. He was good. Oh, he was good. They were good. They were good. And I thought going in, I had been told... Maybe it was you. Maybe it was somebody else.
It was probably me.
It was probably you. Who else was going to talk about soccer? I know one other person, and he might have said they were good. But anyway, we're going to move on to the next topic, unless there's something else you want to say about the NCAAs. No, I know you don't want to talk about. I know
Shootout before the
They were
match.
very excited. They were very excited going into that championship game. I'll tell you, it was great soccer going in. So other than that.